You know, we have this saying in English that anytime you have to explain the joke, it's not going to be funny. Like, there's no point explaining humor to someone. Anytime that you have to explain to someone the necessity of being empathetic, they're not going to be empathetic. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
This girl named Sarah. Sarah has recently blasted Onision and Onision's wife, who is now the husband, Kai, on Twitter and on social media, saying that she was groomed by them from the age of 14 until she ultimately was in an intimate relationship with them 4 days after she turned 18.
How long after you turned 18 did y'all pursue a relationship? So like,
well,
dates
talk of
or
it
whatever.
started like a month before I turned 18. The only official relationship that ever happened was a month ago for like 2 weeks, but there was so much stuff that, like, it's all just very gray, basically. It's
I'm gonna be completely honest here. I don't believe like there's anything that's gray about this.
Sarah was a fan and began tweeting Onision and his wife Lainey, who now goes by the name Kai, when she was only 13. Eventually, Onision and then LaineyBot took notice of this and became friends with Sarah when she was only 14 years old and began texting inappropriate things, had a very inappropriate friendship. These are both adults, keep in mind, becoming friends online and over text with this young girl.
We had already had romantic conversations and talks when I was 15. And I know that in the video that he posted online, I basically was like, oh, nothing is going on, guys. But he wanted me to make that video, and he like really pressured me into making it. I have bloopers from it of me literally like having like a mental breakdown, like sobbing, because I was just so overwhelmed.
At the age of 16, after having an inappropriate, friendly relationship over text with Kai and Greg, Sarah actually moved in with them. Sarah was going through personal family issues that led her to confide in Kai and Greg, and shortly after, Kai and Greg decided that they would let Sarah move in at 16. Sarah then, of course, lived with them, began appearing in YouTube videos with them, and speculation arose as to what exactly was going on with this underage girl living with this adult couple.
And he made females that he was in relationships with sign NDAs, which is a non-disclosure agreement, which means they can't talk publicly about the things that go on.
Sympathy is important as an analytical tool. How would you feel, Onision, if this had happened to you? How would you feel if there were an older couple who got involved with your life starting when you were 14 years old and ending when you were 18 years old? How would you feel if you had this relationship with this older couple and you then moved into their home and started raising their kids when you were 16 years old? What if the positions were reversed? Do that most basic, fundamental thing that sympathy requires and think through how you would feel in the other person's shoes. If you had been going through junior high and then high school when you were in this relationship with this older couple, and I'm completely willing to concede the point that they obeyed the letter of the law, perhaps not the spirit of the law, that they obeyed the letter of the law and they didn't actually penetrate this teenage girl until a few days after she had legally turned 18. I'm willing to believe that. Okay, let's just treat that as a given here. Okay? Nevertheless, this girl, do you think she had a normal high school experience? Do you think she dated other boys and discovered what it is to be a woman and so on as other high school girls do? Or do you think she spent her high school years being seduced by, being really dominated by this older couple, Onision and his wife, who later become Onision and his husband, Lainey, who later renames herself Kai? How would you feel, Onision? What would be the impact on your life if that had been the main influence you lived with between age 14 and age 18? And then finally, how would you feel, Onision, if you were sexually active with this couple for just 2 weeks after you turned 18, and then they dumped you, then they got rid of you, then they made up whatever complex psychological explanation why they didn't want you, and they then discarded you and kicked you out of the house? How would you feel? What responsibility do you think that older couple has towards this teenager whom they took into their lives at such an early age, whom they took into their house at age 16, whose experience of high school and college, if not even junior high before that, I don't know, was shaped by this relationship in such an overweening, powerful way? I'm afraid that the progress we've seen in our civilization in the last 500 years can be lost because people don't appreciate why that progress happened. They don't appreciate how it happened, and they don't appreciate the sacrifices that were made to make it happen. 500 years ago, it was not so uncommon for an adult man to pick out a 14-year-old girl to be his bride through arranged marriages, through brokering things with the parents. And you know what? There were a lot of disadvantages to that pattern of social organization. I mean, there's a reason why we progress toward a society where doing that is instead considered criminal and people go to prison for it. There are many, many, many reasons. There are many disadvantages for parents and children also. I mean, think about what a disadvantage you're putting the next generation at if they're raised by mothers who get married and get pregnant so early with so little formal education or informal education, with so little experience of the world, where, teen motherhood in that sense being normalized and institutionalized on a massive scale. There were a lot of things wrong with our society 500 years ago. And there's a long struggle that most people don't even really want to read the history of how we ended up at our current set of social mores today. But let me tell you something, Onision. If you wanted to play by those rules, the rules from 500 years ago, if you wanted to play by those rules, then when you pick out this 14-year-old girl, or let's even be generous and say you made the commitment when she was 16 instead, but she's got screenshots to prove everything, going back to when she was 14, she says, whatever. If you chose her at that stage, and then you became this incredibly powerful influence in her life for so many years thereafter, dude, you can't quit 2 weeks after she turns 18. You can't discard her and tell her to just move on after 2 weeks. You've made a commitment that lasts the rest of your life. Those were the rules that men played by. Those were the rules that men were expected to live up to 500 years ago. There were a lot of disadvantages. 500 years ago, if somebody picked out a bride at age 14, you have no idea what kind of person she's going to grow up to be. You have no idea. Between the ages of 14 and 18, people change tremendously. Between the ages of 18 and 22, people change tremendously. And, on the level of human sexuality, nobody knows who they are at that age. Nobody knows what they want or what they're going or what they're going to develop into. There's no way they can have that self-knowledge, and there's no way that you from the outside could possibly know who or what you're committing to. But Onision, what you've done is evil and abhorrent in many different ways. Even if you obeyed the letter of the law, and I'm willing to believe you did. You have a long track record of just barely obeying the letter of the law. That seems to mean a lot to you. But do you have no sympathy? Is it really so hard for you to imagine what a tremendously powerful warping influence it would have in your life if you had got involved with a fully grown couple and raised their children and lived in their house from age 16 to 18. If they had been the sun and the moon in your life for those crucial years of growing up, and whatever this girl's situation was at school, I don't know if she dropped out of school or if she got I don't know what her education system was, but where she's not dating other boys in a normal way, she's not living that way, she's being employed as your babysitter. Onision, you can't treat someone as disposable and just get rid of them after 2 weeks of sleeping with them in that context. Even if it's legal, in one word, it's evil.